Welcome back to the Making International Law in Korea video series. In this video, I'll be explaining on current status of regional cooperation system in East Asia. The term East Asia usually refers to Korea, Japan, and China. This category also includes Taiwan and in a broad geographic sense. These countries have a history of exchanges over a long period of time, yet have not formed an institutionalized regional cooperation system, unlike a neighboring Association of Southeast Asian Nations, so-called ASEAN. The regional cooperation system of these three countries are shown in the form of a routine talk among these countries or within the frame of consultation and cooperation. As for the multilateral cooperation system, wherein three countries of Korea, China, Japan are participating, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, APEC, stands as a good example where a ministerial meeting was first suggested by Australia. At first, Korea, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and 6 other nations from the ASEAN community participate in this multilateral cooperation, while China decided not to join. On the third APEC ministerial meeting in November 1991 held in Seoul, however, China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong have all decided to join the cooperation, which established the multilateral cooperation system where all East Asian countries participate in. In November 1993, when first the summit meeting was held in the United States, the APEC has the holding summit meeting every year. Other than that, the ministerial talk in various fields such as foreign ministers, finance ministers, and trade ministers are taking place. The APEC mainly cooperate in the area of economy and technology. Secondly, the Korea, China, Japan are participating in the Asia-Europe meeting, so-called ASEM, along with other ASEAN member states and the nations under the European Union. Since ASEM had its first summit meeting in Bangkok in March 1996, it adopted the Asia-Europe Cooperation Framework in its second summit meeting in 1998. The framework laid out the basic frame of the ASEM cooperation and established a comprehensive cooperative system focusing on the three areas of politics, economy, and security culture as main areas of cooperation. The biannual summit meeting provides an important opportunity to discuss among East Asian nations on current issues on the security assurance and stability of international affairs. When the summit meeting is not held, ministerial talks such as the foreign ministry meeting, economy ministry meeting, and finance ministry meeting are held. Also, ministerial level talks are held to discuss the issues related to science, technology, environment, culture, and immigration. From 1997 onward, the ASEAN Plus 3 was created, providing another channel for multilateral talk for cooperation among Korea, China, and Japan. This ASEAN Plus 3 started when ASEAN invited Korea, China, and Japan to ASEAN Summit meeting, which eventually became a regular practice. This APT has been expanding its areas of cooperation to food and energy security, the finance and society and culture, as well as politics and securities. Within this frame, the three East Asian nations are able to have a regular forum for conservation and cooperation. Lastly, Korea, China, Japan are all member states of Group of 20. The G20 was created at the G7 Finance Ministerial meeting, which was held simultaneously with International Monetary Fund's annual meeting in September 1999. In the same year, The first finance ministerial meeting was held in Germany in December. The participating countries were 7 developed nations, the presidency of the Council of the European Union, and 12 developing countries. Korea, China, and Japan all participate in the talks. After realizing that neither G7 or G8 was enough to effectively handle pressing global economy issues, the G20 was formed. The newly formed G20 was organized to cope with current issues of international economy and finance by including more countries from both developed and developing countries, and to secure cooperation for the stable development of world economy. The G20 originally began with the meetings between finance ministers and head of central banks, but the financial summit meeting regarding the global economic crisis held in Washington, D.C. in November 2008 led to a regular summit meeting. The summit meeting was held biannually until 2010, but from 2011, it has been held annually, along with the yearly meeting of finance ministers and the head of central banks. Since 2008, the summit meeting has been discussing the establishment of a concerted international effort through 47 assignments to prevent recurrence of financial crisis. Some initiatives under this global include the expansion of the group's capacity to resolve international financial crisis through capital increase, reformation of international financial organizations by set up a board of the financial stability, and cooperation for a microeconomic policy to correct imbalanced global economy, and the creation of the sustainable economic development model. Evidently, the G20 forum not only provides the opportunity for economic cooperation and dialogue between East Asian countries, but it is also a medium for Korea, China, and Japan to discuss issues of security and international affairs within East Asia by having bilateral talk during this summit. There is currently no information regarding maritime boundary delimitation between North Korea and China. The single delimitation known to the world is based on the Sino-Korean Border Treaty and its subsequent protocol, which delimited territorial seas in the West Sea. They were signed in 1962 and 1964, respectively. Given the potential for the discovery and exploitation of the oil deposit in the West Joseon Bay, it is timely to consider the possibility of a dualistic regime emerging from this situation. One regime can emerge from the maritime boundary delimitation on the continental shelf, another from the cooperative system for joint development of resources that may emerge between the states. In the case of the latter, any possible arrangements reached between North Korea and China for joint development of the area would have much larger and long-term implications in a unified Korea's relationship with China. It is just as possible to treat the subsection of maritime boundary delimitation in the same way as we treat territorial borders and otherwise. Should we treat them differently? Our corporate system for joint development of the maritime resources may launch a whole new set of legal issues with respect to succession, where they can be treated like border regimes or other territorial regimes. Of course, in the current situation, where no publicly concrete maritime delimitation exists, predicting the existence of such a corporate system is only speculative. However, if we consider the fact that China has already established a joint development zone with Vietnam, when delimiting maritime boundaries in the waters around the Gulf of Tonkin, and also established such zones with Japan, It is highly probable that China would do the same things with North Korea. As such, a consideration of the issue would be timely and necessary since likelihood of such a fact now reside in the realm of the probability rather than mere possibility. The Western Sea is not only important to North Korea and China for its major rich fishing ground. The potentially the oil and natural gas discovery make it even more important. Thus, even in the absence of the boundary delimitation agreement in two states can forge an agreement for joint development if oil deposits were found along the hypothetical boundary. Such an agreement would be far more practical than the development zone between Korea and Japan and merit the serious consideration and analysis. This discusses the issue of the succession of the joint development zone established around the maritime boundaries, or temporary zone installed prior to the confirmation of maritime boundary by treaty. It seeks to predict and discuss the border regime settled in relation to borders rather than maritime boundaries, since no treaty between North Korea and China has been publicized. Through an analysis of cooperative system around the borders, we consider the hypothetical cooperative system for the joint development zone in a seat between North Korea and China and the issue of their succession. Article 11 of the 1978 Vienna Convention on the Succession of States in respect of the treaties provide for the automatic succession for border regimes, while Article 12 regulates the automatic succession of other territorial regimes. The 1974 draft articles on succession of states in respect of treaties with commentaries defines other territorial regimes as including military base, water rights, and navigation on rivers, and neutralization or demilitarization of particular territories. This agreement between North Korea and China discussed may fall under Article 11 border regimes or Article 12 other territorial regimes.